Commander Zeftai's four eyes dilated in horror as the holographic display showed the aftermath. Where the peaceful mining colony of Veltar had once thrived, only twisted metal and glass remained. The attackers had left no survivors among the 3 million inhabitants. What made it worse was the precision. Every defensive position eliminated with surgical accuracy, every escape route cut off before civilians could flee. "Show me the weapon signatures again," Zeftai commanded, his voice barely a whisper through his translator device. The tactical officer, a nervous Krillion with trembling antennae, manipulated the controls. "Sir, the energy patterns don't match anything in our databases. The destructive force is beyond our comprehension. Each blast site shows fusion-level temperatures, but the weapons themselves appear to be projectile-based." Zeftai studied the data streams flowing across multiple screens. In his 200 years of military service across 17 different conflicts, he had never seen devastation so complete yet so controlled. The attackers had systematically dismantled every structure while leaving the planet's atmosphere and ecosystem largely intact. This wasn't random destruction, this was demonstration. "What about the message they left behind?" he asked. The communications specialist, a tall blue-skinned Velnari, activated another display. Strange symbols appeared, angular and harsh, completely unlike the flowing scripts used by most civilized species. Below the alien text, a rough translation flickered in standard galactic script. "We claim this system. Withdraw or face similar consequences." "Have we identified the species responsible?" Zeftai inquired, though he suspected the answer would disappoint him. "Negative, sir. The translation algorithms can barely process their language. What we do know is troubling." The Velnari's 6 fingers danced across her console. "Analysis of the attack patterns suggests the assailants understood our defensive capabilities better than we understand them ourselves. They exploited weaknesses in our shield generators that our own engineers didn't know existed." Admiral Kethra materialized on the bridge through the quantum communicator, her massive form filling the projection space. The Dorani species was known for their calm rationality, but today her usual composure seemed strained. "Commander, I've been in contact with the Galactic Council. They're treating this as a Code Crimson scenario," she announced. "We're dealing with an unknown species that possesses military technology far beyond anything we've encountered." Zeftai felt his heart skip a beat. Code Crimson was reserved for threats that could potentially end galactic civilization as they knew it. Only 3 such classifications had been issued in the past millennium. "Admiral, what are our orders?" "Form a battle group. 6 heavy cruisers, 12 destroyers, and the carrier Infinite Dawn. We're going to investigate their point of origin." Admiral Kethra paused, her large eyes reflecting concern. "Commander, I want you to understand something. The Council's xenobiologists have been analyzing every piece of data we've collected about these attackers." "What did they discover?" "The energy output from their weapons suggests a level of technological advancement that should take a species at least 50,000 years to develop. Yet stellar cartography indicates their home. System shows signs of industrial development dating back only about 10,000 years." The Admiral's image flickered as quantum interference disrupted the transmission. Either they developed faster than any known species in galactic history, or they acquired their technology from somewhere else. The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle humming of life support systems. Zeftai processed this information while studying the tactical displays. If these beings had somehow leapfrogged normal technological development, they represented a paradigm shift in galactic politics. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Deep Space Monitoring Station 7. Put it through." Captain Mordes appeared on screen, his usually pristine uniform torn and stained. Behind him, Zeftai could see emergency lights flashing and crew members rushing back and forth with obvious urgency. "Commander, they've attacked again. The mining platform at Zirion 4 was completely destroyed 6 hours ago, but this time we managed to track their fleet as it departed the system." "Excellent work, Captain. Where are they headed?" "That's the problem, sir. They're moving toward the core systems. Based on their current trajectory, they'll reach the Altarian trade nexus in approximately 18 standard days." Zeftai's blood chilled. The Altarian trade nexus was one of the most important commercial hubs in this sector of the galaxy. Over 40 billion beings lived and worked there, representing dozens of species. If these attackers could destroy a fortified mining colony with such ease, the Nexus wouldn't stand a chance. Admiral, did you receive that transmission? I did, Commander. Change of plans. Take your battle group and intercept them before they reach Altarian space. We cannot allow them to attack a civilian population center of that magnitude. The communications officer suddenly looked up from her station. Sir, I'm detecting an incoming message. The transmission signature matches the unknown hostiles. Every being on the bridge turned toward the main display. The message was audio only, spoken in that harsh angular language they had encountered before. This time, however, the translation came through much clearer. Galactic forces, you have witnessed our capabilities. We are human, and we claim dominion over this sector of space. Withdraw your military vessels and civilian populations from the following systems, or we will demonstrate why your ancestors created laws forbidding contact with our kind. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Zeftai's mind raced as he processed what he had just heard. Laws forbidding contact? He had studied galactic history extensively, and no such laws existed in any database he knew of. Communications. Contact the Galactic Archives immediately. I want every restricted historical document related to species contact protocols. Search for any reference to humans or laws forbidding contact with specific species. Sir, that could take hours to. Then start now. Zeftai's voice carried an authority that made every crew member snap to attention. As his officers rushed to execute their orders, Zeftai stared at the tactical display showing the projected path of the human fleet. Something told him that this wasn't just another territorial dispute or resource conflict. The humans had specifically mentioned laws created by their ancestors, laws that the current galactic civilization had apparently forgotten or chosen to ignore. If those laws existed, there had to be a reason for them, and if the humans were now choosing to enforce them through military action, the galaxy was about to rediscover why those laws had been necessary in the first place. Archive Keeper Thessian ran her 8 fingers across the ancient data crystals with trembling precision. In over 3 centuries of managing the galactic archives, she had never received a request for documents this old or this classified. The quantum locks on these particular files required authorization from no fewer than 7 council members. The search parameters you've provided are extremely specific, she told Commander. Zeftai through the secure holographic link. References to humans and contact prohibition laws. Most of these documents are sealed under Executive Archive Protocol Omega. Zeftai leaned forward in his command chair. Archive Keeper, I have emergency authorization codes from Admiral Kethra. This is a Code Crimson situation. Thessian's pale blue skin shifted to a worried purple hue. She had only heard of Code Crimson being declared twice in her lifetime. Very well, Commander. Initiating deep archive scan now. While waiting for the search results, Zeftai reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The human fleet had maintained course toward the Altarian trade nexus, ignoring all attempts at communication. Long-range sensors indicated their ships used propulsion systems that shouldn't exist. They were moving at speeds that would require energy output equivalent to a small star. Sir, Lieutenant Vixana called from the science station. I've completed the analysis of the weapon residue from Veltar colony. Report. The molecular breakdown shows traces of elements that don't appear on any periodic table in our databases. Whatever these humans are using to power their weapons, it's based on principles our scientists haven't discovered yet. Before Zeftai could respond, Archive Keeper Thessian's image reappeared with an expression of profound shock. Commander, I've found the documents you requested, but I must warn you. What I'm about to share has been classified for over 47,000 years. The main display shifted to show ancient text scrolling past in multiple languages, some so old that translation algorithms struggled to process them. Thessian's voice carried a weight that made everyone on the bridge pay careful attention. The Codex of Forbidden Contact, established by the First Galactic Council in year 2247 of the Old Calendar. The relevant section reads as follows. Contact with the species designated as human is hereby prohibited by unanimous decision of all member civilizations. Their mastery of warfare and destruction poses an existential threat to galactic stability. Zeftai felt his blood turn cold. Continue. The species known as human demonstrates technological advancement focused primarily on military applications. In the span of merely 800 years, They progressed from chemical explosives to weapons capable of converting matter directly into energy. Their philosophical approach to conflict resolution consists primarily of overwhelming force applied with mathematical precision. The archive keeper paused, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "Commander, there's more. Much more. Show me everything." The display filled with tactical assessments, battle reports, and scientific analyses spanning thousands of pages. Thessian highlighted specific sections as she spoke. According to these records, humans first made contact with galactic civilization approximately 50,000 years ago. Initial exchanges were peaceful, even beneficial. Human innovation in engineering and medicine advanced several species by centuries. But then came the Vorthan conflict. HFY recognized the name from ancient history lessons. The war that lasted 30 years and resulted in the complete extinction of an entire star system? That's the sanitized version taught in schools. The reality was far worse. Thessian brought up holographic battle maps showing fleet movements across multiple star systems. The Vorthans attempted to conquer 3 human colonies. The human response was swift and absolutely devastating. The tactical display showed the progression of human military action. What started as defensive operations quickly became a systematic campaign that eliminated not just the Vorthan military, but their entire infrastructure, their colonies, and ultimately their homeworld. The Vorthans had superior numbers and equivalent technology, Thessian continued. They possessed energy shields that could deflect any known weapon and armor that could withstand direct hits from fusion cannons. The humans studied their defenses for approximately 6 standard months, then developed completely new weapon systems specifically designed to counter Vorthan technology. Lieutenant Vex Anna looked up from her station. "Archive keeper, how is that possible? Developing new weapons technology should take years, even decades. According to the reports, humans don't just innovate, they weaponize everything." Their first breakthrough was developing projectile weapons that used exotic matter to punch through energy shields. Their second innovation was creating fusion-based explosives that could be delivered with pinpoint accuracy across interstellar distances. HFY studied the ancient battle reports with growing unease. The tactical patterns described in these 47,000-year-old documents were nearly identical to what they had observed at Veltar Colony. What happened after the Vorthan extinction? The other galactic civilizations panicked. The humans had demonstrated that they could completely annihilate any opposition regardless of technological parity. But what truly terrified the Council was the human reaction to their own victory. "What do you mean?" Thessian's image flickered as she accessed deeper archive levels. The humans expressed no satisfaction, no celebration, no remorse. When questioned about the complete destruction of an entire species, their representatives simply stated that the Vorthans had chosen extinction by attacking human civilians. They viewed the outcome as a natural consequence of poor decision-making. The bridge fell silent except for the constant hum of ship systems. HFY tried to process the implications of what he was hearing. "Archive keeper, what ultimately led to the contact prohibition?" The Andromedans made that decision for everyone. They were the most advanced military power at the time, and they attempted to establish dominance over human space. The humans responded by developing something called stellar engineering weapons. Stellar engineering? Weapons that could manipulate the nuclear fusion processes inside stars. The Andromedans lost 14 entire star systems when the humans caused their suns to go supernova. Not just the inhabited planets. Entire systems became uninhabitable for millions of years. Lieutenant Vexana's voice was barely audible. "They can make stars explode?" According to these records, that was considered a restrained response. The Andromedans had attacked 7 human worlds. The humans could have destroyed their entire civilization but chose to limit their retaliation to military targets and supporting infrastructure. HFY realized his hands were shaking. What happened to the humans after the contact prohibition was established? They agreed to it willingly. According to the final diplomatic exchanges, human representatives stated that isolation was preferable to constant warfare. They retreated to their original star systems and sealed their borders. The galactic community was ordered to forget their existence entirely, but they're back now. Yes, Commander. And based on these historical records, they've had 47,000 years to advance their military technology without any external interference or limitations. The communications officer suddenly spoke up. "Sir, we're receiving another transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was calm, almost conversational. But there was something in its tone that made every being on the bridge instinctively step back from their stations. "Galactic forces, you have accessed restricted historical documents regarding our species. We commend your thoroughness. However, you should understand that our capabilities have advanced considerably since those ancient conflicts. Withdraw from our path within 6 hours, or we will provide a more current demonstration of human military doctrine." Admiral Kethra stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, her massive frame casting shadows across the circular chamber. Representatives from 43 species filled the tiered seating, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and harmonics that the universal translators struggled to process simultaneously. "Council members," she began, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority, "we face a crisis that threatens the very foundation of galactic civilization. The species our ancestors called human has returned, and they possess military capabilities that exceed our worst projections." Councillor Fetris of the Zalorian Empire raised one of his forearms. "Admiral, surely you exaggerate. No single species could threaten our combined fleets. We have over 12,000 ships of the line spread across 17 sectors." Admiral Kethra activated the central holographic display, showing the tactical analysis that Archive Keeper Thessian had compiled. "Counselor, our historical records indicate that when humans last engaged in galactic warfare, they possessed weapons capable of destroying stars. That was 47,000 years ago." The chamber erupted in cacophony as representatives demanded clarification in dozens of languages. Council Speaker Morthul, an ancient being whose species had witnessed the rise and fall of 3 different galactic civilizations, called for order with a deep resonant tone that penetrated every corner of the chamber. "Admiral Kethra," Morthul's words carried the authority of millennia, "explain the current tactical situation. The human fleet consists of 13 vessels. Long-range sensors indicate their ships are approximately 2 kilometers in length, constructed from materials we cannot identify, and powered by energy sources that register as localized space-time distortions." Councillor Yathara of the Crystalline Consortium leaned forward, her translucent form shimmering with concern. 13 ships? Admiral, you're suggesting that 13 vessels could threaten our entire civilization? Councillor, based on their demonstrated capabilities at Veltar Colony, each human ship appears to possess firepower equivalent to an entire battle group. But that's not our primary concern. Admiral Kethra manipulated the display to show trajectory analysis and strategic projections. Our xenopsychology experts have analyzed every communication we've received from the humans. Their behavior patterns suggest they're not interested in conquest or resources. They're enforcing what they consider to be violations of ancient agreements. What agreements? Demanded Councillor Fetris. The contact prohibition that our ancestors established. The humans are interpreting our expansion into this sector as a violation of those ancient treaties. Council Speaker Morthul's ancient eyes focused on the Admiral with unsettling intensity. Admiral, my species was present during those original negotiations. The humans agreed to isolation in exchange for being left alone. If they're taking military action now, it suggests they believe we've violated that compact. Speaker Morthul, with respect, we're not bound by agreements made 47,000 years ago. Galactic law has evolved considerably since then. Admiral, Morthul's voice carried a warning tone. Galactic law has evolved. Human military doctrine has not. They still view treaty violations as acts of war requiring immediate response. Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship Inexorable, Captain Sarah Chen reviewed the intelligence reports streaming in from surveillance drones positioned throughout the sector. Her bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their movements precise and economical. Unlike the multi-species chaos of Galactic Council meetings, human military operations proceeded with mechanical coordination. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Torres reported from the tactical station, we're detecting significant fleet movements. The Galactic forces are assembling what appears to be a major battle group. Composition: 6 heavy cruisers, 12 destroyers, and 1 carrier. Estimated total crew complement of approximately 37,000 beings. Captain Chen nodded without changing expression. Standard Galactic naval doctrine. They're probably planning to engage us with overwhelming numbers while keeping their primary fleet as a reserve force. Ma'am, should we adjust our approach vector? Negative. Maintain current course and speed. Signal the fleet to prepare for combat operations. Commander Torres hesitated for a moment. Captain, our orders are to enforce the boundary agreements, not to engage in unnecessary warfare. Commander, they've had 6 hours to withdraw as requested. They've chosen to position a battle fleet between us and our objective. That constitutes a military response to our lawful enforcement action. Chen activated the ship's communication system. All stations, this is the captain. We are approaching hostile forces that have chosen to violate ancient treaties and ignore lawful warnings. Prepare for combat operations. Weapons free upon my command. Back in the Galactic fleet, Commander HFY watched his sensors as the human vessels continued their approach. Despite facing overwhelming numerical superiority, the humans showed no signs of changing course or reducing speed. Sir, Lieutenant Vexana called from her station. I'm detecting some kind of energy buildup from the human ships. Their power signatures are increasing exponentially. Battle stations. All ships prepare for engagement. The tactical display showed both fleets converging on an intercept course. HFY had participated in 17 different military conflicts, but none had filled him with this level of dread. Everything he had learned about human warfare suggested that they didn't engage in battles they couldn't win decisively. Sir, the humans are hailing us, put them through. Captain Chen's voice came through clearly, without the distortion usually associated with interspecies translation systems. Galactic Commander, you have positioned your fleet in direct violation of boundary agreements established by your own ancestors. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. HFY activated his response channel. Human Captain, I am Commander HFY of the Galactic Defense Force. You have attacked civilian targets and threatened major population centers. We cannot allow you to proceed. Commander HFY, we have targeted only illegal settlements within restricted space. The population center you reference is built in direct violation of established boundaries. It will be evacuated or removed. Captain, 40 billion beings live on that station. You cannot simply order them to evacuate. There was a pause before Chen responded. Commander, your species chose to build unauthorized installations in restricted space. The inhabitants have 48 hours to evacuate before we remove the station. This conversation is over. The communication channel closed, leaving HFY staring at his tactical display. The human fleet had closed to within weapons range, but neither side had fired yet. Sir, the weapons officer reported, all ships report ready for combat operations. HFY watched as the human ships moved into what appeared to be a standard battle formation. But something about their positioning troubled him. Instead of spreading out to minimize damage from area effect weapons, they were clustering together in a tight formation that made no tactical sense. Lieutenant Vexana, are you detecting any unusual energy patterns from their formation? Sir, I'm reading massive gravitational distortions forming around their fleet. It's almost like they're creating artificial gravity wells. What would be the purpose of HFY never finished the question. Space itself seemed to twist around the human fleet as reality bent to accommodate forces that shouldn't exist. When the distortion cleared, the 13 human ships had vanished. Where did they go? HFY demanded. Sir, the sensor operator's voice was filled with disbelief. They're directly behind us. All 13 ships just appeared in our rear formation. The tactical display updated to show the human fleet positioned perfectly to engage the galactic ships from their most vulnerable angle. They had somehow moved instantaneously through space without using any conventional propulsion. Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge once more. Commander HFY, you now have a choice. Surrender your weapons and withdraw, or discover why your ancestors feared us enough to ban all contact. Commander HFY's tactical display showed a situation no military academy had ever prepared him for. 13 human ships had positioned themselves with mathematical precision to exploit every weakness in his fleet's formation. Their instantaneous movement through space defied every known law of physics. All ships evasive maneuvers. Do not engage unless fired upon, he commanded, buying time to assess this impossible situation. Sir, Lieutenant Vexana reported, her voice tight with stress. The human ships aren't moving to counter our maneuvers. They're maintaining position as if they know exactly where we're going to be. HFY studied the tactical projections. The galactic fleet was executing standard evasive patterns, but the humans remained stationary, their weapons trained on seemingly empty space. It was as if they could predict his fleet's movements with perfect accuracy. Communications. Get me Admiral Kethra immediately. Admiral Kethra's holographic image materialized on the bridge, her expression grim. Commander, I've been monitoring your situation. The Council is in emergency session, but they're struggling to understand what they're seeing. Admiral, the humans have demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't exist. They move their entire fleet instantaneously through space without any energy signature we could detect. Commander, I've been studying the ancient records more carefully. There are references to human tactical precognition that I initially dismissed as exaggeration. The Admiral paused, consulting data streams flowing past her image. According to these documents, humans developed computational systems that could predict enemy movements with near-perfect accuracy. Predictive algorithms aren't unusual, Admiral. Many species use not algorithms, Commander. Something else entirely. Admiral Kethra highlighted sections of the ancient text. The records describe humans using quantum consciousness interfaces that allowed them to process probability matrices in real time. They could literally see multiple possible futures and choose the optimal tactical response. Before Zeftai could respond, Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge again. Commander Zeftai, you have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and withdraw. After that, we will demonstrate why your ancestors chose fear over pride. Captain Chen, Zeftai responded, I have orders to protect civilian populations. I cannot simply withdraw. Commander, in 27 seconds, your ship will attempt to execute a flanking maneuver using your destroyers as cover. In 31 seconds, your heavy cruiser Phoenix Dawn will fire 6 fusion torpedoes at our lead ship. In 35 seconds, you will discover that your weapons cannot penetrate our defensive systems, and we will respond with overwhelming force. The precision of Chen's prediction sent chills through Zeftai's crew. Those were exactly the tactics he was preparing to execute. How can she know? 17 seconds, Commander. Your window for peaceful resolution is closing rapidly. Zeftai made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships stand down. Power down weapons and maintain current positions. Sir? His weapons officer asked in disbelief. You heard the order. Stand down immediately. The tactical display showed his fleet's weapon systems going offline one by one. Zeftai watched the countdown timer reach 0, then continue past the time when Chen had predicted the engagement would begin. Thank you. Commander Zeftai. Chen's voice carried what might have been approval. You have chosen wisdom over pride. However, your fleet cannot remain in this position. Where would you have us go? Return to your home systems. Inform your leaders that humanity is reclaiming territories that were always ours by right. The ancient boundaries will be restored. Admiral Kethra's image flickered with interference. Commander, the Council is ordering you to maintain your position. They refuse to accept human territorial claims. Zeftai found himself caught between two impossible alternatives. Disobeying the Council would end his career, but engaging the humans would likely end his life and the lives of everyone under his command. Captain Chen, I need time to coordinate with my superiors. Can you give me 1 hour to resolve this situation diplomatically? Commander, you may have 43 minutes. After that, we will proceed to our objective regardless of your fleet's position. The communication channel closed, leaving Zeftai to contemplate his limited options. He activated a secure channel to the Council chambers. Admiral Kethra, I need to speak directly with the Council. They need to understand what we're facing. Minutes later, Zeftai found himself addressing the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. The circular chamber buzzed with nervous energy as beings from dozens of species debated responses to the human ultimatum. Council members, Zeftai began. I have commanded fleets in 17 different conflicts. I have never encountered an enemy with the tactical capabilities demonstrated by these humans. They possess weapons and defensive systems beyond our understanding, and they can predict our movements with perfect accuracy. Counselor Fetris stood, his forearms gesturing dismissively. Commander, you're allowing yourself to be intimidated by technological tricks. Our combined fleets number in the thousands. Counselor, with respect, you haven't seen what I've seen. These 13 ships could destroy my entire battle group without taking significant damage. Impossible, declared Counselor Yathara. No species could develop such overwhelming superiority. Council Speaker Morthul raised one ancient hand for silence. Council members, I have lived long enough to remember when humans first made contact with galactic civilization. Commander Zeftai's assessment is not exaggeration, it is prudent caution. Speaker Morthul, Councillor Fetris argued, we cannot simply abandon entire sectors of space because one species makes territorial demands. The alternative, Morthul replied, is to engage in a war we cannot win against beings who view warfare as applied mathematics. Admiral Kethra projected tactical analyses onto the chamber's main display. Council members, I've completed a comprehensive review of human military doctrine based on historical records and current observations. Their approach to warfare is fundamentally different from anything we understand. Explain, demanded Councillor Yathara. Most species view military conflict as a political tool, a means of achieving specific objectives through controlled application of force. Humans view warfare as problem-solving. They analyze the obstacles preventing them from achieving their goals, then engineer solutions to remove those obstacles permanently. The chamber fell silent as representatives processed this information. When humans fought the Vorthons, Admiral Kethra continued, they didn't seek victory in the traditional sense. They identified the Vorthon species as an ongoing threat to human civilian populations and engineered a permanent solution to that threat. You're saying they committed genocide as a tactical decision? Councillor Fetris asked. I'm saying they eliminated a problem with the same emotional detachment most species use to repair malfunctioning equipment. Council, Speaker Morthul's ancient voice filled the chamber. The question before us is simple. Do we risk galactic civilization on the belief that we can defeat beings who have had 47,000 years to perfect the art of warfare? Or do we accept that some territories are not worth the cost of claiming them? Commander Zeftai watched the debate continue, knowing that time was running out. In less than 30 minutes, Captain Chen would resume course toward the Altarian trade nexus with or without Council approval for withdrawal. Council members, he interrupted, I need a decision. My fleet cannot remain in this position indefinitely. The chamber erupted in dozens of simultaneous discussions as representatives consulted with their home governments. Some species advocated for immediate withdrawal, while others demanded military action regardless of the consequences. Finally, Council Speaker Morthul called for order. Commander Zeftai, the Council has reached a decision. You will withdraw your fleet to a safe distance and observe. We are authorizing the deployment of the Omega Fleet. Zeftai felt his blood turn cold. The Omega Fleet was humanity's worst nightmare made manifest. Over 300 of the most advanced warships in galactic history, equipped with weapons capable of cracking planets and shields that could withstand stellar radiation. Speaker Morthul, are you certain this is wise? Commander, it is time to discover whether human superiority is real or merely reputation. Fleet Admiral Tiranesh commanded the most powerful military force in galactic history. From the bridge of the massive dreadnought Absolute Authority, the Omega Fleet stretched across 3 light hours of space, its 312 vessels representing the pinnacle of 47,000 years of military development. Each ship could engage multiple opponents simultaneously, while maintaining defensive screens capable of deflecting weapons that could destroy. Moons, Admiral, reported Captain Velmarsh. From the Tactical Command Center, all fleet elements report ready for engagement. Long-range sensors confirm 13 human vessels maintaining course toward the Altarian trade nexus. Tiranesh studied the holographic display showing both fleets' positions. Her massive Dorani frame radiated confidence as she reviewed the tactical situation. Captain, their formation hasn't changed despite detecting our approach. Either they're supremely confident or completely unaware of our capabilities. Admiral, our xenopsychology teams suggest humans tend toward overconfidence. Historical records show they often engage superior numbers with minimal tactical support. Excellent. Signal the fleet to assume attack formation Delta. I want our heavy dreadnoughts in the center, battle cruisers on the flanks, and destroyer screens in overlapping defensive positions. The Omega Fleet moved with practiced precision, each ship sliding into position according to tactical doctrines refined through centuries of warfare. The formation created interlocking fields of fire while maximizing defensive coverage, a textbook deployment against numerically inferior forces. Aboard the human flagship, Inexorable, Captain Chen observed the Galactic Fleet's approach with professional interest. Her bridge crew continued their duties with the same quiet efficiency they had maintained throughout the mission. "Captain," Lieutenant Commander Torres reported, "the Galactic Fleet is deploying an attack formation Delta, consistent with standard doctrine for engaging numerically inferior forces. Predictable. Signal the fleet to prepare for Pattern 7 engagement." "Ma'am, Pattern 7. Against 300 ships?" Commander Torres, Pattern 7 is designed specifically for overwhelming numerical superiority scenarios. "Trust the doctrine." Chen activated the ship's internal communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We are about to engage a large galactic fleet using standard tactical procedures. Remember your training, follow your orders, and execute with precision. This operation will conclude quickly." The human fleet began to move, but not in any formation recognizable to galactic military doctrine. Instead of spreading out to minimize casualties or concentrating firepower for maximum effect, the 13 ships arranged themselves in a perfect geometric pattern that seemed to serve no tactical purpose. "Admiral," Captain Velmarsh reported from the Absolute Authority, "the human fleet is assuming what appears to be a ceremonial formation. Their positioning makes no military sense." Admiral Tiranesh examined the tactical display with growing confusion. "Are they surrendering? That formation leaves them completely vulnerable to concentrated fire." "Unknown, Admiral, but they're maintaining course toward our fleet." "Range to target?" 15 minutes at current approach speeds." Admiral Tiranesh opened a communication channel to the human fleet. "Human vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Tiranesh of the Galactic Omega Fleet. You are outnumbered over 20 to 1. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." Captain Chen's response came back immediately, her voice carrying the same calm professionalism she had maintained throughout the crisis. "Admiral Tiranesh, you have deployed a significant military force to prevent lawful enforcement of ancient boundary agreements. This constitutes an act of war against humanity. Captain, you cannot seriously believe 13 ships can engage my entire fleet. Admiral, your tactical assessment is based on conventional warfare doctrine. We do not engage in conventional warfare." The communication ended, leaving Admiral Tiranesh staring at her tactical display. The human ships continued their approach, now only 8 minutes from weapons range. "All ships prepare for engagement. Target the human flagship first, then concentrate fire on the remaining vessels in sequence." "Admiral," Captain Velmarsh interrupted, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups from the human ships. Their power output is increasing beyond anything we've recorded." "How massive?" "Each ship is now generating energy equivalent to a small star, Admiral. Our sensors can barely process the readings." Admiral Tiranesh felt a chill of uncertainty. "Signal all ships to charge primary weapons and raise maximum shields. If these humans want a demonstration of galactic military power, we'll provide one." The Omega Fleet's weapons systems came online with devastating efficiency. Particle cannons capable of vaporizing asteroids, plasma torpedoes that could crack continental plates, and energy beams that could cut through the hulls of capital ships. 300 vessels worth of concentrated destruction aimed at 13 human ships. "Admiral, the humans are hailing us again. Put them through." Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge with unsettling calm. "Admiral Tiranesh, you have 30 seconds to withdraw your fleet. After that time, we will demonstrate why humanity was isolated by mutual agreement rather than force. Captain, you're facing the most powerful fleet in galactic history. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." "Admiral, in 28 seconds your fleet will fire everything it has at our ships. In 29 seconds you will discover that your weapons cannot penetrate our defensive systems. In 30 seconds we will respond with a single demonstration shot. In 31 seconds you will understand why your ancestors chose fear." Admiral Tiranesh's tactical display showed the countdown reaching 0. "All ships open fire." The Omega Fleet unleashed destruction on a scale that had never been witnessed in galactic warfare. 300 ships fired simultaneously, their combined weapons creating a light show visible from neighboring star systems. Energy beams, particle streams, and explosive projectiles converged on the human formation, with enough destructive force to sterilize entire planets. The attack lasted for 17 seconds of continuous bombardment. When the energy discharges finally faded, Admiral Tiranesh stared at her display in complete disbelief. All 13 human ships remained exactly where they had been. Not one showed any sign of damage. "Impossible," Captain Velmarsh whispered. Nothing could survive that level of concentrated fire. Captain Chen's voice returned, still carrying that same unnatural calm. Admiral Tirnesh, you have now witnessed our defensive capabilities. Observe our offensive systems. One of the human ships, unremarkable among its companions, shifted position slightly. No visible weapons emerged from its hull. No energy buildup registered on sensors. No targeting systems activated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to ripple around the Galactic fleet's left flank. Reality twisted in ways that violated fundamental laws of physics. And when the distortion cleared, 47 ships of the Omega fleet had simply ceased to exist. No explosions, no debris, no energy signatures. 47 of the most powerful warships ever built had been erased from existence, as if they had never been there. What happened to our ships? Admiral Tirnesh demanded. Lieutenant Keshatar at the sensor station frantically worked his controls. Admiral, I'm not detecting any trace of those vessels. No wreckage, no energy signatures, no quantum resonance. It's as if they were never there. Captain Chen's voice continued with that same professional detachment. Admiral, we have removed 47 of your ships using a single low-power demonstration. Your remaining vessels now have one opportunity to withdraw before we demonstrate our full capabilities. Admiral Tirnesh stared at her tactical display, trying to process what she had witnessed. 47 ships and their crews, over 300,000 beings, had been eliminated without any visible weapons fire. How? She whispered. Admiral, Chen replied, apparently having heard the question. Your species still think of warfare in terms of energy and matter. We learned long ago to think in terms of space and time. We didn't destroy your ships, we edited them out of reality. The implications hit Admiral Tirnesh like a physical blow. If humans could manipulate reality itself as a weapon, conventional military doctrine became meaningless. All ships, she commanded, her voice barely steady, withdraw to minimum safe distance. Do not engage unless directly fired upon. The Omega fleet began a fighting retreat, maintaining defensive formations while putting distance between themselves and the human ships. Admiral Tirnesh opened a priority channel to Galactic Command. This is Admiral Tirnesh reporting Code Omega failure. The human fleet has demonstrated capabilities beyond our understanding. Request immediate Council consultation. Council Speaker Morthul's ancient voice responded within minutes. Admiral, explain the situation. Speaker, the humans destroyed 47 of our ships without using any weapons we could detect. They appear capable of manipulating space-time as a tactical tool. Admiral, are you suggesting they can alter reality itself? Speaker, I'm reporting that 47 ships and their crews no longer exist, and our sensors cannot explain how or why. The communication channel fell silent, except for the background hum of galactic networks carrying frantic messages between dozens of worlds. Networks carrying frantic messages between dozens of worlds. Finally, Morthul responded, Admiral, withdraw all forces to the outer system perimeter. The Council will convene an emergency session to determine our response to this development. As the Omega fleet continued its retreat, Admiral Tirnesh watched the 13 human ships resume course toward the Altarian trade nexus. They moved with the same steady determination they had maintained since the crisis began, apparently unaffected by having just faced the most powerful military force in galactic history. Captain Velmarsh, she said quietly, send a message to all ships. No one discusses what happened here until we receive official guidance from the Council. Yes, Admiral, but how do we explain the missing ships? We don't. For now, those ships are classified as missing in action pending investigation. Admiral Tirnesh knew that classification wouldn't last long. Word of the Omega fleet's failure would spread throughout galactic civilization. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in complete chaos. Representatives from 43 species argued simultaneously in dozens of languages, while holographic displays showed the impossible tactical reports from the Omega fleet engagement. The Chamber's translation system struggled to process the overlapping conversations about humanity's demonstration of reality-altering weapons. Council Speaker, Morthul called for order with a resonant tone that had commanded respect for over 2 millennia. Council members, we face an unprecedented crisis. The Omega fleet, our most powerful military force, has been decisively defeated by 13 human ships. Defeated is an understatement, Admiral Kethra interjected from her position at the tactical briefing station. 47 ships were completely erased from existence. No debris, No energy signatures, no trace that they ever existed. Counselor Federus stood, his forearms trembling with barely controlled rage. This is impossible. No species could develop weapons that manipulate reality itself. The evidence suggests otherwise, Admiral Kethra replied, activating holographic recordings from the battle. The humans demonstrated the ability to edit objects out of space-time. This goes beyond advanced technology. They've weaponized the fundamental forces that govern existence. Dr. Vex Nali, the Council's leading xenotechnology specialist, approached the central display. Her Krelian features showed the strain of analyzing data that challenged every known scientific principle. Council members, she began, I've spent the last 6 hours reviewing sensor data from the engagement. The humans appear to have developed what we can only call quantum warfare, the ability to manipulate probability matrices on a macroscopic scale. Explain. In terms we can understand, demanded Counselor. Yithara. Imagine reality as a vast equation with infinite variables. Most species work within the existing parameters of that equation. Humans have learned to rewrite the equation itself. When they destroyed those ships, they simply changed the probability of their existence from certain to impossible. The chamber fell silent as representatives struggled to comprehend the implications. If humans could alter the fundamental nature of reality, conventional military resistance became meaningless. There's more, Dr. Vex Nali continued. Analysis of their defensive systems suggests they're not using energy shields, they're creating localized zones where incoming attacks have zero probability of causing damage. Council, Speaker Morthal's ancient eyes reflected the weight of impossible decisions. Dr. Vex Nali, in your professional opinion, do we possess any military capability that could threaten these humans? Speaker Morthal, based on current evidence, the answer is no. They operate on principles beyond our understanding. Meanwhile, aboard the inexorable, Captain Chen reviewed status reports from across the human fleet. The engagement with the Omega fleet had proceeded exactly as tactical projections had predicted, with minimal energy expenditure and zero casualties. Captain, Commander Torres reported, long-range sensors show massive galactic fleet movements throughout this sector. They're evacuating military assets from all systems within 50 light-years. Expected response, Chen replied. They're finally beginning to understand the situation. Ma'am, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Put Admiral Morrison through. The holographic image of Admiral David Morrison materialized on the bridge, his weathered features showing the strain of coordinating humanity's return to galactic affairs. Captain Chen, excellent work with the Omega Fleet demonstration. How are they responding? As predicted, Admiral. Complete military withdrawal and emergency political consultations. The galactic species are beginning to understand why the contact prohibition existed. Any signs of continued resistance? Negative, sir. They're operating under the assumption that we're vastly superior to their current capabilities. Admiral Morrison nodded approvingly. Maintain current course toward the Altarian trade nexus. We need to complete the boundary restoration before they attempt any desperate measures. Understood, Admiral. What's the status of the other enforcement fleets? Sectors 7 through 12 report successful boundary establishment. The galactic species are evacuating unauthorized settlements without resistance. Apparently, word of your demonstration has spread quickly. Captain Chen studied the tactical displays showing galactic fleet movements across multiple star systems. Admiral, they're coordinating on a scale we haven't seen since the ancient wars. Should we be concerned about a unified response? Captain, our intelligence networks have been monitoring their communications for months. They're not preparing for war, they're preparing for survival. The galactic species have remembered why their ancestors feared us. Back in the council chambers, the debate continued with increasing desperation. Representative after representative proposed military solutions that Dr. Vex Nali systematically dismantled with scientific analysis. What about quantum disruptors? Suggested Councillor Veltani of the Mechanist Alliance. Ineffective, Dr. Vex Nali replied. The humans appear to operate outside normal quantum mechanics. Gravitational weapons? They've demonstrated control over space-time itself. Gravitational manipulation would be elementary for them. Stellar engineering? We could destabilize their home star. Council Speaker Morthal intervened with a tone that silenced the chamber. Council members, you're discussing the genocide of an entire species. Have we learned nothing from history? Speaker, Counselor Fetris argued. They're threatening our entire civilization. Counselor, they're enforcing boundaries that we agreed to respect. The difference is significant. Admiral Kethra activated a galactic map showing human territorial claims. Council members, I've analyzed the boundaries the humans are establishing. They correspond exactly to the original contact prohibition zones established 47,000 years ago. You're suggesting we simply abandon entire sectors of space? Demanded Counselor Yathara. I'm suggesting we honor agreements our ancestors made for very good reasons. Dr. Vexanali highlighted specific regions on the map. Council members, the territories in question represent less than 3% of known galactic space. The evacuation would affect approximately 200 million beings across 17 unauthorized settlements. 200 million people displaced because one species makes territorial demands. Counselor Fetris protested. 200 million people relocated to prevent the potential extinction of galactic civilization. Council Speaker Morthal corrected. The chamber erupted in renewed debate as representatives argued about refugee relocation, economic impacts, and political implications. Some species demanded military action regardless of the consequences, while others advocated for immediate compliance with human demands. Council members, Admiral Kethra interrupted. I'm receiving real-time reports from the Altarian Trade Nexus. The human fleet has arrived and is broadcasting evacuation orders. The main display showed Captain Chen's image as she addressed the station's 40 billion inhabitants, citizens of the Altarian Trade Nexus. This station was constructed in violation of ancient boundary agreements between humanity and galactic civilization. You have 48 hours to evacuate all personnel and remove all infrastructure from this system. Failure to comply will result in the station's removal by other means. 40 billion beings cannot evacuate in 48 hours, protested Station Administrator Kolvara, a massive Dorani whose voice carried the authority of managing one of the galaxy's largest commercial centers. Administrator Kolvara, Captain Chen replied, we are prepared to provide evacuation assistance. Our transport vessels can accommodate all station personnel and essential equipment within the specified time frame. You have transport ships that can move 40 billion beings in 2 days? Administrator, we have been preparing for boundary restoration for several decades. Evacuation protocols were established to minimize civilian casualties. Council Speaker Morthul stood slowly, his ancient frame carrying the weight of millennial wisdom. Council members, the decision before us is simple. Do we honor the agreements our ancestors made? Or do we fight a war we cannot win against beings who view out within days? And with it would come the terrifying realization that humanity possessed the power to end their civilization without effort. Since 6 months after the evacuation of the Altarian Trade Nexus, the galaxy had settled into an uneasy new reality. The massive commercial station now drifted empty in space, its 40 billion former inhabitants relocated to worlds throughout the galactic community. What should have been a humanitarian disaster had instead become a testament to human logistical capabilities. The evacuation had been completed in 36 hours with 0 casualties. Commander Zeftai stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge, watching the rebuilt new Altarian commercial hub through the viewport. The replacement station, constructed in unrestricted space, bustled with activity as trade resumed under new territorial agreements. Strange to think that all of this could have been avoided, he mused to Dr. Thessian, who had joined the diplomatic mission as a historical consultant. The archive keeper's pale blue skin showed contemplative purple patterns. Commander, I've been studying the aftermath of our encounter with humanity. The most remarkable aspect isn't their military superiority, it's their restraint. Restraint? They erased 47 ships from existence. Commander, based on historical records, humans possess the capability to eliminate our entire galactic civilization within hours. The fact that they chose demonstration over destruction suggests they've learned from their own history. Through the viewport, they could see a human diplomatic vessel approaching the station. The ship was elegant in its simplicity, lacking the ornate decorations favored by most galactic species. Its hull bore no weapons, but everyone in the galaxy now understood that human ships didn't need visible armaments. Dr. Thessian, Zeftai asked, do you think we made the right choice in accepting their territorial demands? Commander, the alternative was extinction. I consider that a clear indication that we chose correctly. Ambassador Chen Li materialized on the station's main docking bay through a transportation method that still baffled Galactic scientists. Unlike her military counterpart, the human diplomat wore flowing robes that seemed to shift color in response to her emotional state, a concession to Galactic diplomatic customs. Ambassador Chen. Zeftai greeted her as she approached the diplomatic reception area. Welcome to New Altarian Hub, Commander Zeftai. Thank you for facilitating these negotiations. I understand this has been a difficult transition for many species. They walked through corridors filled with beings from dozens of different worlds, all conducting business under the new territorial framework that humanity had imposed. Despite initial fears about economic disruption, trade had actually increased once beings realized that human-controlled space offered unprecedented security guarantees. Ambassador, Dr. Thessian interjected, may I ask about something that has puzzled our researchers? Your species demonstrated capabilities that seem to violate fundamental laws of physics, yet you're willing to engage in conventional diplomacy. Ambassador Chen paused at a viewing port overlooking the station's central commerce district. Dr. Thessian, humans learned long ago that military superiority without diplomatic wisdom leads to isolation and stagnation. We prefer to solve problems through understanding rather than force. But you were prepared to use force. We were prepared to defend ancient agreements that existed for everyone's benefit. The contact prohibition wasn't established to limit other species. It was created to protect them from our own nature. Commander Zeftai studied the human ambassador's calm expression. Ambassador, can you help us understand something? Your military demonstrated the ability to manipulate reality itself. How did your species develop such capabilities? Commander, human development has always followed a specific pattern. We identify problems, then engineer solutions. 47,000 years of isolation gave us time to solve problems that most species consider insurmountable, such as death, disease, resource scarcity, the limitations of physical matter. Ambassador Chen gestured toward the bustling commerce center. What you witnessed during our territorial restoration was the application of tools we developed for entirely peaceful purposes. Dr. Thessian's antennae trembled with curiosity. You're saying your weapons are actually civilian technologies? Dr. Thessian, the ability to edit objects out of space-time was originally developed to remove hazardous waste from populated areas. The defensive systems that protected our ships were designed to prevent industrial accidents. Humans have simply learned to apply our problem-solving tools to military situations when necessary. The implications sent chills through both galactic representatives. If humans' most devastating weapons were merely repurposed civilian technologies, what other capabilities might they possess? Ambassador, Zeftai asked carefully, what would it take for humanity to consider resuming normal diplomatic relations with the galactic community? Commander, normal relations require mutual respect and understanding. The ancient contact prohibition existed because previous galactic civilizations couldn't accept that humans approach problem-solving differently. How differently? Most species accept limitations as permanent conditions. Humans view limitations as temporary obstacles to be overcome through innovation. Ambassador Chen activated a small device that projected holographic images of human worlds. These are our home systems today. The images showed planets that defied every known principle of planetary science. Worlds with artificially maintained atmospheres that shouldn't exist, space elevators that reached beyond their solar systems, and structures that appeared to be constructed from crystallized space-time itself. Commander Zeftai, Ambassador Chen continued, humanity spent 47,000 years learning to reshape reality according to our needs. We've eliminated poverty, disease, aging, and death. We've converted entire star systems into computational matrices. We've created pocket dimensions to house our expanding population. But you're willing to share space with other species? Commander, isolation taught us that existence without diversity becomes meaningless. We returned to galactic space not to conquer but to reconnect. However, that reconnection must occur on terms that prevent the conflicts that led to our original isolation. Dr. Thessian accessed her historical databases. Ambassador, the ancient records describe humans as unusually aggressive. Your current demeanor suggests significant cultural evolution. Dr. Thessian, humans are still aggressive in pursuing solutions to problems we identify. The difference is that we now understand the difference between problems that require individual solutions and problems that require collective solutions. And territorial disputes? Territorial disputes are individual problems that affect collective stability. We solve them efficiently to prevent larger conflicts. Commander HFY realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. A species with godlike capabilities was voluntarily limiting its expansion and actively seeking peaceful coexistence with less advanced civilizations. Ambassador Chen, what does humanity ultimately want from the galactic community? Commander, we want what we've always wanted, to be left alone to pursue our development while maintaining peaceful relations with our neighbors. The difference is that we're now capable of enforcing that desire, and if other species accept these boundaries, then humanity will be the galaxy's most reliable trading partner and most effective defender against external threats. We've learned that cooperation produces better long-term outcomes than domination. Ambassador Chen activated another holographic display showing star charts with clearly marked boundary zones. These territories represent less than 5% of known galactic space. In exchange for respecting these boundaries, humanity offers technological assistance, protection against external threats, and access to resources that don't exist anywhere else in the galaxy. Dr. Thessian studied the proposed trading arrangements with growing amazement. Ambassador, you're offering technologies that could advance our civilizations by millennia. Dr. Thessian, human advancement accelerates when we can share knowledge with beings who approach problems from different perspectives. Isolation breeds stagnation. Commander HFY looked out at the thriving commercial hub and realized he was witnessing the birth of a new galactic age. Humanity's return didn't represent conquest or destruction, it represented evolution. Ambassador Chen, he said formally, I believe the Galactic Council will find these terms acceptable. Commander, I hope so. Humanity has learned that the universe is large enough for everyone, provided everyone understands their place in it. As the human ambassador departed through her impossible transportation method, Commander HFY watched the busy commerce center and reflected on how quickly the galaxy had adapted to humanity's return. Perhaps their ancestors had been wrong to fear contact with humans. Perhaps the real mistake had been waiting 47,000 years to rediscover what cooperation with humanity could accomplish. In the distance, human ships moved through space with casual mastery over forces that galactic science couldn't explain. But instead of inspiring fear, their presence now offered something the galaxy hadn't known it was missing: absolute security and limitless possibilities. For those wise enough to accept both humanities, friendship, and their boundaries, the age of human isolation was ending. The age of human partnership was about to begin.